Hello and welcome everyone to part 5 of this review. And before we get into the video, I just want to address something really quickly here. Last part, when I was still going over the PvP and online, I forgot to talk about the 3v3 mode. So since I don't have very much to say, I'm just going to quickly mention it here. 3v3 mode was something the devs added in later in the game, and it's basically domination, where you run around on these new maps that they created specifically for this mode, and you capture points. The thing about it though is that it's very laggy. Well, it can be pretty laggy at times, like even more so than regular combat trials. And unlike 1v1 combat trials, which runs at 60 FPS, this game mode runs at 30 FPS. So, as you can imagine, it's not very popular. Like, if you actually want to play this game mode, you have to get some people organized on Reddit or Discord in order to play it, or just hope that people are on and they want to, hope people are queuing up for 3v3, because otherwise it's going to take a really long time. That game mode is pretty much dead. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about that. It's otherwise fine except for those two major issues, but yeah, that's about it. Anyway, now let's get into the video. So, this might be a hot take, but most of the fighting styles in this game are actually pretty garbage. They're either bugged, busted, and or overall just kind of weak in certain aspects. Let me start with kahlt. So, in theory, kahlt is technically the easiest style to use. All you have to do is flick the right stick in any direction to use its ability to absorb. And to absorb basically means that you dismiss the stun of an attack. So you take the hit, you gain a bit of ghost health that you can then refill by hitting your opponent. And some powers do this as well. Powers like Earthquake, Shield, and Exhaust, they all have the absorb property, allowing you to absorb attacks, get the ghost health, dismiss the stun of the attack and take your turn back. In theory, of course, you can absorb almost every attack. The only attack that you can't absorb are guard breaks. Those orange attacks, those will break through the absorb. So guard breaks are effectively certain powers and the kahlt fighting style's weakness. Now the thing about kahlt though is that unlike those powers, save for shield, when you absorb with kahlt, you gain a special property called resistance, as indicated by a symbol that will appear under your health whenever you successfully absorb. And there are 3 levels to resistance. There's level 1 resistance, which is the yellow symbol, which lets you power through light attacks. There's level 2 resistance, which is the orange symbol, and that lets you power through medium attacks. And then there's level 3, which is red, and it lets you power through heavy attacks. And to get these each level of resistance, right? Like, to get level 1 resistance, you absorb 1 time. To get level 2, you absorb twice in a row. To get level 3, you absorb 3 times in a row. But you see, the thing about this mechanic is that each time you gain a level of resistance, the timer doesn't reset. It stays the same the whole way through. So by the time you get to level 2 resistance, like you've absorbed twice in a row, you barely have enough time to eat a medium attack before counterattacking, of making like taking your turn back with your own attack, right? Like it disappears just that fast back down to level 1. So, and the thing about level 1 resistance is that like it's pretty much useless. Like last part, I need to make a correction. Last part I said there aren't many light attacks in the game. Well, I misspoke. See, what I meant was you're not likely to see light attacks in another person's deck. Alright, you might see like maybe 1 or 2 in a person's deck when you fight them online, but like you're not likely to see them. They're not all that common because most light attacks in the game are pretty trash. They're not worth using. There's very few light attacks in the game that are actually worth using. But even then you won't see them all that much. So when you absorb, the thing is, Kahlt's main problem is that there are too many decently fast medium attacks in the game. Mainly, I'm really talking about the 12 frame attacks. Most 12 frame attacks are medium attacks. And it's not uncommon to see strings of these attacks in a sequence. So what'll happen is, oftentimes, when you go to absorb, you won't be able to take your turn back. Sometimes, because your opponent's just spamming like, well, I don't want to say spam, more like your opponent has like a sequence that has like 2, 3, maybe even 4 12 frame attacks in it, okay? And you know, like sometimes you can take your turn back, but like due to how this game's netcode is, and actually the fact of the matter is that Kahlt is bugged, because sometimes Kahlt is supposed to be neutral on absorb. So like if you're in theory, if you absorb and you try to counter with a 12 frame attack, you should be able to take your turn back, right? But sometimes due to the connection, you'll actually be like -1 or like -2. So then you'll even if you absorb, you'll still get hit by like a 12 frame medium attack. Like if your opponent has like one right after the attack you absorb, so you won't. A lot of times you won't be able to take your turn back. And see, that's just the thing, right? That's kind of like the main problem with Kahlt that just makes it really weak, you know? Like, notice in these clips here, sometimes when my opponent uses a 12 frame, he's able to take his turn back. By the way, if he doesn't use a 12 frame, anything slower than 12 frames, he's not going to be able to get out of my pressure. But like, yeah, sometimes whenever he uses a 12 frame, he'll be able to take his turn back, and sometimes he won't be able to take his turn back because I'm also using a 12 frame at that very moment. So the only time he was consistently able to take his turn back was when he was using Blink Punch, which was a light attack, and it's 10 frames, so supposedly. So that was the only time he was able to really get his turn back, when he used the 10 frame attack after absorb. Other times, it's if he uses anything slower than a 12 frame, he's gonna get fucked. And if he tries to use a 12 frame, well, it's 50-50, kind of, pretty much. Like sometimes you can take your turn back after using a using a 12 frame after absorb, and sometimes you can't. Like it's not consistent. That's why I think it's bugged. Because it's only supposed to be not minus at all. It's supposed to be neutral. So at the very least, when you use it, you're supposed to take your turn back. Assuming you use a 12 frame attack, right? And sure, you could just double absorb, but the thing with that is that again, well, you could double absorb against like 12 frame spam, I suppose. But like the thing with that is that number one, I tried doing that. It's not easy, but like you can get the hang of it if you know it's coming, but only if you know it's coming. Because if you try to absorb too early and the next attack isn't a 12 frame attack, well, you're gonna get hit. And so that would, you still get fucked. But like if you know it's coming, you can do that. In fact, I suspect that's how the devs kind of expected you to use it with the way they currently have it implemented. Because yeah, but the thing with that is that when you reach like level 2, right? So just to take your turn back against the 12th frame spam, or not necessarily spam. Again, I hate using that, but it's not uncommon to run into sequences like that. Or if, like, say you absorb like a slower move and then they have like a 12 frame right after it, right? Like say like that, right? Like you have to double absorb to beat out that 12 frame, but you still lose health though. It's not worth it to really double absorb because you're still losing health. Like you go to absorb, right? You double absorb, and then the attack that you eat takes away that first ghost health. The initial ghost health that you receive when you first absorbed the attack, that first attack before the second attack. So the reason that's a problem is when you get to low health, you end up getting screwed still, because you still can't do anything. You still can't take your turn back. All you have to do is block. You have to block and hope that there's a gap, an opening sometime in your opponent's deck, or just, I don't know, maybe wait for them to run out of stamina or something. You have to hope and pray they don't bust out like a heavy move or something. I guess you could, you could still absorb it, but like the real thing is you have to hope that they don't bust out like a guard break. But I suppose you could manual dodge it, but again, manual dodge is ass, and it's kind of ass, and like some of these moves will legit, some of these guard breaks will legit track you if you dodge too early. So I think the solution to that problem is that maybe have a special absorb for guard breaks, like an orange absorb for guard breaks that loses against regular attacks. Maybe, I don't know, just give us more options besides praying that a guard break isn't coming, and manual dodging whenever faced with that scenario. But like back to that other situation with the low health, you can't, there's not really anything you can do when it comes to the when it comes to the 12 frame attack sequences. Like when you could double absorb them, but you won't be able to take your turn back, because if you try to take your turn back afterwards, you get all that ghost health and you can't power through anything, because if you try, you're gonna die. You get hit and you die. So I think if you're gonna keep the the thing is, like, if you're gonna keep it the way it is, right? Keep the resilience mechanic the way it is, right? I think the best way to go is to maybe just a suggestion, right? Is to maybe, like, when you power through, assuming you have the appropriate resilience level, when you power through an attack, it only takes away the ghost health, and it doesn't like cancel it. It doesn't do actual damage to you. It only takes away the ghost health, so it doesn't cancel out the ghost health in addition to doing damage to you, because that's how it currently works. So if you get hit while you have ghost health, the ghost health disappears and you still take regular damage. So I think the way it should be is, if you have the appropriate resilience level, whatever attack you power through should only take away the ghost health and not do actual damage to you. that would make double absorbing a bit more viable. You know, like, you know, you're less likely to get, no, you won't get screwed when you're at low health, you know. So you can take your turn back, and you're just not in this unfair situation when you get down, when your health gets really low. Like, double absorbing is it's like high risk, kind of high reward, but like it becomes not worth it when your health is not practically non-existent. You know, it gets less worth it the lower your health is. And another thing I would suggest is maybe nerfing like all of these 12 frame mediums, right? There's too many of them in the game, you know. So it makes kahlt weak, really kind of weak, since there's so many 12 frame medium attacks in the game. I think any 12 frame attack under like 85 damage should be considered a light attack. Also, some 12 frame attacks need to get nerfed because their damage is a little too high, especially back era. Like, what the fuck? 94 damage? Man, like not even 13 of most 14 frames can't even reach that damage, okay? Why is back era special? Like, speaking of moves that need to be adjusted, fucking buff Falcon Punch, alright? Like, side tangent, buff Falcon Punch. Why does it have all this startup and only does like 120 damage? A little less than that. Like, what? Like, buff this move, Slow Clap. All right. I can't even use it on an alternate attack, on an alternate style, because it ends in the same stance that it begins in. So at least like buff this move, please. You know, make it a bit more worthwhile, even though it's a meme attack. You know, just like, I mean, come on. It's Falcon Punch. All right. If you're not gonna buff the damage, at least give it like if you're not gonna give it like a lot better damage, at least make it a guard break. You know, it's called Falcon Punch and you didn't make it a guard break. That's a missed opportunity right there. Like, you know, like even when you make it a guard break, you know, also buff the damage still a little bit, just a little bit even still. But like, you know, you're making it a guard break, that would have been perfect. That's a missed opportunity right there. But anyway, side tangent rant kind of thing over. Like, yeah, that's the thing with kahlt, you know. Also, like, well, level 3 resistance on kahlt is pretty much useless. Like, it lasts for pretty much a split second. You're almost never gonna get to with the way resilience lasts, like how long it lasts. That since it doesn't reset, like you're never gonna want to get to level 3 resistance. You know, you're never gonna want to absorb 3 times in a row. So like, yeah, if you're gonna like, what's even the point of that, really? If you're really that scared of making the resilience mechanic that strong, like maybe, I don't know, give each resistance level a separate timer. All right, instead of it all just one timer that just runs all the way through. You know, you could give each resistance level a separate timer. So like, say level 1 lasts like around 3 seconds, then level 2 lasts like 2.5 seconds, and level 3 lasts 2 seconds. I don't know, just to make it a bit more worthwhile, you know? Like, kahlt is supposed to be the tank class, like the heavy hitter class, or at least that's what it was like kind of portrayed as, you know? Just looking at it. And, you know, I think the devs were just really kind of scared to make it really too strong, make the resilience too strong. So they kind of just, you know, they just ended up not really. Man, I don't know. They just kind of left it as it is. But also, yeah, I know you could just use like light attacks after it absorbed like 10 frames and all that, but like, that's just a band-aid covering up the real issue here. Like, I just, like, you're welcome to disagree, but I don't think that's okay. Like, I don't think it makes kahlt okay. All right. You're more than welcome to disagree, but that's just how I feel. You know. Anyway, moving on. The next style I'm gonna cover is Forsaken, and Forsaken is just straight up bugged, and in more ways than one. It's technically supposed to be the second easiest, sort of, since you only have to worry about left-right sort of mix-ups. Like let me explain how it works really quick. Like, you know, if an attack is coming to your right side, you parry to the right. If an attack is coming to your left side, you parry to the left. Simple, right? Well, I mean, it would be simple if it weren't for a few things. So the first thing is that the parries are bugged on Forsaken. So, like, you're supposed to have 14 frames of advantage when on a successful parry, meaning that you're supposed to be able to act 14 frames sooner than your opponent, which means that you're supposed to be able to confirm certain attacks on a parry, right? But, like, due to the parry being bugged and the netcode and whatnot, like, sometimes you won't be able to confirm a 14 frame attack. Like, I think it's 14 frames of advantage you're supposed to have, if I'm not mistaken. But, like, yeah, sometimes you won't be able to get your 14 frame confirm, or even a 13 frame confirm, or even a 12 frame confirm. Yeah, that's right, you heard that, right? You can't even get a 12 frame attack off of successful parries, like, sometimes. So, like, it's just, like, even if you use the style correctly, you're not rewarded, right? You don't get your hit in. So, I mean, in a way, it's kind of like kahlt, but, you know, there's other things about it too, right? In addition to that, sometimes you don't even get stamina back for a parry, right? And sometimes you don't even get to attack at all, because sometimes on a parry you might just pause awkwardly and you won't be able to buffer an attack through a parry, so you won't even be able to take your turn back, right? So, like, numerous things can go wrong with that style. You know, either you don't get your guaranteed attack right, either you don't get your 14 frames of advantage, or you don't get your 13 hit or even 12 frame attack off, right? Sometimes you don't get your stamina back, and sometimes you don't get to attack at all. So yeah, it's just you get screwed. Like, it's just varying degrees of getting screwed, honestly. You never, and it's never like quite certain what's gonna happen. So, like, yeah, that style is just bugged. Like, this, I don't really have much else to say about it. Like, it just needs to get fixed, because it just straight up doesn't work properly, like it's supposed to. Like, you just get screwed sometimes when you use it. Whenever you use it, it's supposed to be the second easiest style to use, but you know, I think it, like, due to how bugged it is and how it just decides to just not work at times, it's actually like the second hardest style in the game to use, at least in my opinion. It's ridiculous. I thought it was, when I switched from Phage to Forsaken, I thought that shit was gonna make my life easier, but I was wrong. Like, I knew that it was bugged sometimes, but I didn't know how badly until I switched to it. So, I mean, oh man, that style just straight up just doesn't work right a lot of times, you know? Like, sometimes it'll be fine, right? Like, if the connection is smooth, and maybe also if you're a host. But, like, even then it can be inconsistent. It fluctuates too much, right? So it just, yeah, that style just needs to get, like, fixed, period. All right, because it just straight up doesn't work right a lot of the times. So yeah, now we have Windfall, and this style is actually the only balanced and not garbage style in the game, right? So yeah, it just works as intended, pretty much. So let me just go over it really quickly. So for Windfall, you have 4 directions that you need to avoid it. You have left, right for straight attacks. You duck down for high horizontal attacks, and you have a little hop, a little jump for low attacks, low horizontals. So I mean, you have 4 directions, but it's honestly a very rewarding style to use. Like, you know, I use it for a bit. Like, even if you only do like left, right avoids, like that's still more rewarding than both Kahlt and Forsaken combined, because number one, it's just easier to use because it's just easier to use because it actually works properly, and 2, like, you get a ton of stamina back, right? For off an avoid, and depending on what attack you avoid, like if it's a big slow move, like the bigger and slower the move, the more advantage you get off of avoiding it. So you can legit confirm up to like 18 frames. All right, like I think, you can legit confirm like 18 frame moves from avoiding the right moves. Assuming you avoid the heavy moves, you can confirm up to that much. So like, and even if you dodge lighter moves, you might not get anything from it, but you get a ton of stamina back, and you also drain your opponent's stamina off of a successful avoid. Now I think that may be a little too much, since like, number one, like you're slowing them down when you avoid, right? And 2, you're getting a ton of stamina back. Like Windfall has like the most stamina gain, I believe, or like the second most stamina gain. And like 3, the punishment for having their attack avoided means that it's no longer their turn. But like Windfall, man, like it drains your stamina, so it's like you'll be out of stamina like really quickly if you're not careful going up against Windfall, right? I don't know. I guess it's fine, but I'm not entirely sold on that. But then again, like since it has like variable degrees of advantage off of an avoid, depending on what attack is avoided, it might be fine. But like, yeah, Windfall, it just works, you know. It's perfectly fine, you know. Other than that, man, like, other than maybe the draining stamina thing, like it's perfectly fine. It works just fine. It's the most balanced style in the game. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good. No complaints, honestly, really. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about Windfall. Oh, really. Alright, we covered the most balanced style in the game. Now it's time to cover the most busted style in the game, Stagger style. Now, I mean, at one point, that style actually used to be the worst style in the game. It was so bad, like it was pretty bad. And now it's just straight up busted. Like the devs overtuned and overcorrected on Stagger style, so it's just so piss easy and brain dead. Like I can't tell you how much I hate that fucking style, honestly. It's just so, oh my god. Anyway, let me just explain to y'all what I mean real quick. So basically, Stagger style is a drunk Windfall, right? In that, like, you have 4 directions once again, right? But each direction comes with its own special attack, special quote. But like, basically, it just means that it's like Windfall avoids, but it has a little attack tied to it. So you know, it just you know, you move you move the right stick in a direction, and you do a little stumble that taps your opponent, right? So you know, you have left, right for straight attacks. You have a back step that kicks forward, like that kicks the opponent away, and then you have a 17 frame front charge attack when you press up on the right stick, so a front charge. And that front charge is the fastest charge attack in the game. Like it's at 17 frames, right? To put that in perspective, charge attacks are only like 20 to 22 frames, right? So that's just, and you can just do that front charge anytime you want. So like, you know, if your opponent's hitting you or you're just blocking, right, you can just say fuck you to their pressure, to their block string or whatever, and just charge right through it at any time you want. And you know, it's especially bad for like Forsaken, because that front charge, like, it's not, you have to guess which side it's hitting on, and it's kind of hard to do because like it's just this, like it just runs forward. It doesn't have like a sort of direction that it goes into, and yet you have to parry in a certain direction to parry it properly. Like if you're like I think it corresponds to like whether what left like direction like left right stance you're in, right? So like even then it's kind of hard to tell because it's going straight. All right, like I can't really, I don't know, there's probably some trick to it that I haven't figured out yet, but like you have to guess left right when depending on the stance. So it's not even omni-parryable. It's the fastest charge attack in the game, and it's not omni-parryable, right? Like you can't parry to either side to stop it if you're Forsaken or Fei Jin. So that is mad annoying. Alright, and on top of that, like whenever you hit somebody with these special attacks, you are guaranteed to get a 12 frame punish, right? So like you can just like it's straight up possible, right, to just front charge somebody and get a free, and then on top of it, like saying fuck you to their pressure, you get a free attack on top of that. So like yeah, you get a free hit on top of that. So it's a whole load of bullshit, honestly. Like fastest charge attack in the game. Use it whenever you want. You get a free attack off of it. Free. It's just ridiculous. You know, that really pisses me off because it's so brain dead. It's piss easy. Like this just it encourages so many bad habits, honestly. And you know, and on top of that, it has like crazy stamina gain. It's the most stamina gain in the entire game, because every time you dodge an attack with it, it gets a little stamina buff that stacks up to 5 times. That's a little too much. Like if you wanted to give it a stamina buff, like make it up to 3, but like 5 times is a bit too much, honestly. And let's see what else. Oh, and it's super non-committal too. Like you can feint those stumbles, right? So if you miss up, right, like you and your opponent is about to hit you with like a really heavy move, you can just feint those stumbles. You can just stop yourself from getting hit and then block the attack. So it's like almost, it's pretty impossible to heavy punish that that style if your opponent is paying, like, is hyper vigilant, right? You know, so it's super brain dead and piss easy. Like if you want to win, just use stagger. Oh, also I almost forgot, like it also has like a really good will kind of like base will stat, like base will multiplier. So if you invest enough points into it, like it becomes really easy to spam powers if you invest enough points into will. Like not even that many points too. Like it reaches its soft cap a lot sooner than the other styles. So if you invest a pretty decent amount into will, if you're staggered, you can easily get get your shards up and spam powers if you want to. You can totally go that route too. So I mean, yeah, it's honestly ridiculous. It's so, you know what else? You can also just kind of spam those stumbles too. Like you can use them as like legit mix-ups as well. So like it's super non-committal. You can feint those stumbles, right? You can use them as mix-ups, and again, you have that front charge attack that isn't omni-parryable, and it's the fastest charge attack in the game, and you can use it at any time. So honestly, just fuck stagger, man. That shit is way overtuned. It needs to be toned down, bro. Like that stamina bonus stack, that needs to be put down from 5 to 3. I don't know what can be done to make it less committal. I mean, maybe get rid of the ability to feint those stumbles, or maybe like if you feint the stumbles, it gets rid of your stamina buff. Alright, because you're almost never gonna run out of stamina on stagger, if you dodge enough moves, right? So there's that. And and make that front charge omni-parryable, right? Or if you're not gonna slow it down, just make it omni-parryable, right? Just so I don't have to, guess which side to parry to if I'm anticipating it. So yeah, but like as it is now, man, fuck that style. It can go to hell. Now you might think I'm overreacting, and maybe I am, but man, you can't tell me that style ain't overtuned, bro. You can't. Like it needs to get toned down in a lot of aspects. All right. Now, lastly, we have the Fei Jin style that you can either learn through a school, or you can unlock through the Downfall dungeon mode. Like once you reach Gleam level 6, you unlock the Fei Jin fighting style. And what is Gleam level? Well, it's basically just I think I touched on this before, but in case I didn't in an earlier part, Gleam level is basically just beat up dudes in Downfall dungeon mode, right? In the Downfall mode. There's multiple levels to to that mode, each with its own boss. And you unlock those by just basically, raising your Gleam level by beating up dudes there. And the dungeons are procedurally generated, but once you've seen a few rooms, you've pretty much seen them all, and they all have some variation of, beat up a bunch of dudes. Like you find, like sometimes it's clear a room, or sometimes it's protect the statues, or sometimes it's like beat up dudes in waves, but that's basically it. So yeah, anyway, the Fei Jin fighting style. Now this fighting style is just kind of how do I put this? Fei Jin is a mix between Forsaken and Windfall, kinda, but pretty much. You have parries and front stance, and avoids and back stance. Let me talk a bit more about the front stance, because that's really where you want to be, right? For Fei Jin, that's where Fei Jin is at its strongest. It's pretty weak in back stance. So like the thing about front stance is like Fei Jin, the Fei Jin parries are a bit tighter than Forsaken ones, but they come with a built-in attack like special attack. You know how Stagger has like a built-in attack on its stumbles. Feijin has the same thing, but with its parries. Well, mainly its left-right parries. And the thing about this though is that Feijin cannot parry low attacks with these with the left-right parries. It uses a low parry to stop low attacks from hitting. Right. So that's something to be mindful of. You have an extra direction and front stance to worry about when it comes to parrying with Feijin. And another thing about the front stance with Feijin is that it has access to a stopping attack. Oh my god, stopping attacks. That's what those red attacks were called. My god, I forgot what they were called, so I just called them regular breaking attacks, but they're really called stopping attacks, so my bad. But yeah, you have access to this stopping attack whenever you're in the front stance with Feijin, and it's a really good pressure mix-up tool. The pressure is insane. It's a bad matchup for Seiken, and it's especially bad matchup for Windfall because now you have like legit like three-way mix-ups, right? Like 33, 33, 33 instead of 50, 50s, right? So like for Windfall, it's pretty bad because now you have to worry about high, low, and like dodging to the side, you know? Like avoiding to the side. So yeah, like it allows you to get pretty creative with your deck building. That front stopper, right? And as for the back stances, you have these avoids, and they work pretty much the same as, you know, Windfall. Like, there's no special attacks tied to these avoids, so you just avoid and that's it, right? But the problem with these avoids, right, is that they're kind of variable in how much advantage they have, or rather lack of, right? Like depending on the attack you avoid with these backstance avoids, you get a certain amount of advantage, right? But a lot of times what will end up happening is that, well, it's kind of like kahlt, in where that if your opponent has like a sequence of like 12 frames in their deck, or if they get like a 12 frame after an attack you just dodged, you're not going to be able to take your turn back, right? So sometimes what'll end up happening, right, is that you will avoid a move, right, with a backstance avoid, and you'll still get hit by their next move. Like if it's a decently fast move, mainly a 12 frame move, you'll still end up getting hit and not taking your turn back. The only thing you can do is block. And unlike Windfall, you're not getting a ton of stamina off these backstance avoids. So it's like, yeah, it's not really worth it to use the backstance avoids. They're just so weak. You can't, you know? So it's like, you know, what are you even using them for? Like any competent, like really good Feijin will almost never be in backstance. Like they'll like try their best to avoid it. So yeah, there's that, you know. And as for the parries, there's another thing about the parries, like, right? So the parries are, you're not getting a ton of stamina off these parries. And like since it has the built-in stopping attack, I mean not the stopping attack, the built-in attacks on these parries, you're basically not getting any stamina back for parrying. Like the only time you get your stamina back for parrying, right, is rewarded with a good amount of stamina back for parrying is when you use the low parry, and that is subject to not give you any stamina back, because it's got the same, that low parry's got the same problems as the regular Forsaken parry, in that sometimes you won't get any stamina back, or you won't be able to attack at all, you know. So yeah, that's another thing. Even on the regular phage in parries, you're not guaranteed to get any stamina backs, and it actually ends up being a waste. And unlike the stagger, where if you do those with those special attacks, like those special attacks tied to stagger always give you a 12 frame confirm, but these ones they give you like 10 frames of advantage, so you can't, like, unless you're using a jab, right, like a 10 frame move, like, you're not going to get anything off of those phage in parry attacks, which is weird to me. That's strangely really kind of weird to me. Like, you do that for stagger but not phage in, you know, you give 12 frame advantage to stagger but not phage in. Like, what's the deal with that, you know? And because you oh man, you just kind of, I don't even know, dude. Like, that's weird to me. I don't know what the thought process was behind that, unless they just really wanted you to use light attacks after those phage in parries. Like, I guess, I don't know, like, then emphasize speed or something. But that's a bit weird to me. But I mean, I don't know. But yeah. So, like, you don't get a whole lot of stamina back, and it's just, you know, you're not getting any confirms off of it really either, unless you use a jab attack. And, like, you know, you're already not getting a whole bunch off of the backstands avoids either, and you can't really do anything after those either. So it's like, you know, phage in is almost a really solid style, but it's still garbage. There's still a whole bunch of things holding it back, you know? Like, don't get me wrong, it's really strong in front stance. Really strong in front stance. Like, the pressure is insane. But it's just, like, everything else it does is just weak. Alright? So, like, you know, like, it's, I guess, like, another thing is that you can feint the parry, so you kind of have some like leeway, right? Like, if you mess up, you can kind of save yourself and correct the parry or whatever. Kind of like a stagger, right? But sometimes what'll happen is, like, a lot of times, is that even if you make the wrong read, right? If you like fall for like a feint or whatever, or you make the wrong read and you're about to get punished really heavily by like a slow move, those parry attacks will save you. So I think the parry attacks shouldn't, that's kind of bullshit to me. So I think the parry attacks shouldn't really come out unless you actually like successfully parry something, you know. But I mean, other than that, man, phage in's just really kind of weak. Like, it's really strong when you're on pressure, but like on the defense, it's just really, really weak, you know. And you don't get very much out of it. You don't get a whole lot of advantage, you don't get like a whole lot of stamina out of it either. You know, like, you don't need a whole lot of stamina, but the stamina you do get is practically negligible. Okay, it's negligible. All right, like, I mean, you could try feinting the parries. I thought to try this too. Like, you could try feinting the parries. When you parry an attack with phage in, right? You can try feinting the parry attacks so that they don't come out to probably try to save some stamina, but that doesn't work because feinting takes stamina. So, I mean, you're better off just using the full hit, you know. You're letting the parry attack fly when you parry something. So, I mean, yeah, you know, it's just weak. That style is just pretty. There's a lot of things holding that style back. It's almost really solid, but it's just, it still needs to be worked on because it feels like it's just not all that rewarding to use. Like, you're not given a whole lot of stamina back for successfully using it. you're not giving a whole lot. You're not giving a whole lot of advantage for using it. Like you could use jab attacks for both the parry attack confirm and then the backstance avoid confirm. But again, that's the same as the kahlt style, as it's just covering up the real issue there. So I mean, yeah, that's really about it. That's all the styles. You know, like I said, most of them are garbage. The only one that isn't is Windfall. So yeah, sorry for this video being, you know, really long. Again, like I didn't mean for it to be that long, but I also really wanted to get all the styles in one video. So yeah, I'm gonna cover a few more things in the next part, and that'll be it for the review. So stay tuned for that. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace, y'all.